So I wanted to talk about this because, where is it? Solitude. No, not this one. Oh, this one, I think. Yes. Okay. So you know how so many times people will always talk about all the different problems, with black men that some people talk about on some platforms. I'm thinking of one specific platform that I tend to watch. I'm not going to name her because, I don't know. That just seems kind of like wrong to do. But, I sometimes see how, you know, bitter people get, over a bad experience when it comes to all of a category, which is just weird to me a bit. Especially for an individual who, you know, like the type of people I'm talking about, were it's specific to a video, actually two videos that I've watched, where they are talking about their relationships with black men and the bad things that basically have happened to them or the things they've seen. They've seen things where they witnessed physical abuse or they dealt with poverty or they have issues with their black baby daddy and he's trying to cause trouble for them and trying to take their kid away from them or something of that nature, or just different things like that, or struggling as a single mom. It's just random things I've seen on some channels that, seem to have an issue with black men. And it's like, I mean, to me, looking at it from a point of view that really has no gain in the situation. I don't gain anything from someone appreciating black men, and I don't gain anything by anybody hating them. I really have no dog in the fight. Sadly, that was an O-type. Anyway, um, so that is generally what I've noticed, and it's to me a big turnaround to me because you go from having kids, marrying, having some kind of affinity towards these men to completely hating them. And I mean, it's just a far stretch to me, which is weird to me because it's like, is it real? Is that hate real? If you really had such love for them at one point that were in a long-term relationship, possibly marriage, and then you just completely hate them. But yeah, it's just like, to me, from my point of view, it's always been odd to me. And I say that as a person who, for a while, I've really thought I did not have any bad experiences with black men, right? Because I don't have relationships with black men. I've never had a sex dream of a black man. I've never looked at a dark skinned black man and said, he's handsome or attractive. These things just don't go through my head. So I'm never going to want to be with them. And, you know, I've always said that I didn't have any bad experiences with them. But it's like, when I really think of it, I'm like, well, I can say that being completely honest about everything I guess I have, just not directly. But it's like, for example, I've talked about how constantly I've had the whole harassment issue, police reports, um, just being harassed while people are working. They're supposed to be working, but they're still harassing you. They're still making your visit to that company really uncomfortable, making you very uncomfortable at work, and so forth. Making your life a living hell. But despite that, I never associated that with black men. Ever. I never associate them as bad people. To me, it's just like, well, I try to avoid them. And that's why what I do in my life is I try to avoid black men and not have them in my life, because it seems like there's a bit of a clash where you might prefer someone like me and I don't prefer you back. And when that happens, unrequited interest always ends poorly. But I don't actually blame them for that, honestly. I mean, like, I do blame the violent ones, but the ones that seem hurt, the ones that seem like they are having an issue or whatever, I don't really blame them, honestly. I just am like, well, it is what it is. But, yeah, the most serious thing that I really thought of was something I really never talk about with black men. That is my father. I never really talk about that. I never really think of it, really, honestly. And black men, I don't. To me, it's just like, I don't know, like, I am the type who thinks of things in very individual type of ways. I don't really think of people in a boxed way. So, like, for me, like I've said, my father died before I was born. But for me, the way my father left this earth was through what's it called? Murder or homicide or whatever you want to call it. And it was through crime of a black man. And my father isn't black, but who really cares? Really doesn't matter what his race is. But that was literally why I didn't grow up with a father, was because of crime from black men. And I never really, I get it, sometimes why my mother always tries to associate crime with black men may have to do with that whole situation. For me personally, I never really associated that with black men. It was just always like, um, just one individual, you know what I mean? Like, to me, one crime doesn't mean all, you know, black men are that way. Even though, honestly, let's be real, black men generally do commit crimes against other people. And, you know, I mean, of other populations, I'm saying, percentage wise, they're usually the ones who commit the most crime. But I never really think that crime is associated with black men. I really don't. Even though that's what I was taught. And I never really even thought of that, oh, that might be why I was taught that. Because my mother would always associate, like with anything to do with talking about my dad's death, it would always be, she would always talk about the violence of black men. And I never really associated that with black men, really. To me, it's always just been like, I don't know, like I said, anecdotal. But I don't know, like, I never hate black men, even though I never even really loved black men in the first place. Like these other people that I'm saying, like that did have an issue with black men because of a specific issue. They were treated poorly in a relationship or something of that nature. And, they hate black men because of it. And it's like, to me, I'm like, that's their business. They struggle with whatever they struggle with in their lives. And maybe it's their reason for blaming black men. But to me, I mean, like, for me personally, I don't think that would really make me hate black men if I wanted to hate them, really. Because to me, I guess a major thing for me is that I didn't grow up with a lot of black people. So it's like when people talk about all the struggle stuff they go through with black men and relationships and things of that nature, and all the problems they had with their black baby daddies and stuff, to me, I'm like, well, he just happens to be black, in my opinion. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I didn't see a comment. Okay, travel of a black rose. Yeah, I don't like black men. I'm annoyed, been harassed and sexually assaulted by black men, but that is not why I don't like them. I just don't like how most of them carry themselves and their attitude. Any race of man can harass, annoy, and rape. Black men are just more common to behave this way for various reasons. I assume I never held that against all black men. Yeah, I tend to have that idea too. Uh, Part of it, though, for me, like with living my life, I do tend to with harassment and things of that nature. Like, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, but I generally don't. I generally don't like to associate it with any specific race of people, but at the same time, I do follow statistics, and statistically, because I'm black, you're more likely to be harassed by people who are your own race. So, like, that's why for me, I always try to stay away from people I'm not really into that are of my race, things of that nature. But yeah, that's just statistics. Statistically, like, white men are more likely to harass and assault white women. Black men are more likely to assault and harass black women. But I do believe that it's higher rates among black um, women and black men. And that could be for several other reasons. But I don't know, like, I was just like noticing, like, some people, like, they'll say they, had some kind of relationship or something like that, and they um, talk about how things went wrong in the relationship and things of that nature, like through abuse or like being left and like abandoned or like harassed or like verbally abused or like not providing for them or things of that nature. And it's just like, to me, it's a bit of a shock, honestly, in some cases to me, because it's like, I mean, like, if you love this person enough to be in a relationship with them and they did you wrong, but at the beginning you saw some appeal or some good thing about them, then I mean, like, which is it really? You know what I mean? Is it just that you just have a bitter taste in your mouth after that bad relationship? Or, do you really, could you really be brought back to the beginning of your relationship? You know? It's what I tend to think. Like, could you possibly be of the mindset that's not really as angry at black men as you present yourself to be? And I mean, like, for me, I think that a lot of people who have this mindset where, like, one person did them wrong, then all of them are bad. It's like, We don't like that being done to ourselves, you know. So personally, like for me, I never really got why people associate just one bad person in their life who they, for one, thought was a good person at one point in their life, you know. To mean that everyone is now bad. That to me is drastic. But yeah, I just was thinking basically about myself, and I was like, the hate for black men, I don't really see much of the hate for black men personally. I don't generally have it. It's just not there. Even after everything that's happened with myself, with harassment, with my own father, and not harassment with my own father, I'm saying harassment and the murder of my own father, I'm saying. Um, to me, I just think a lot of people sometimes get confused with me on the fact that, my lack of attraction means I have some kind of hate for black men. It's like I don't have any hate for black men just because I don't have an attraction to them. You know, harass like I think a lot of the time some like I think some of the time people think like that just because they've encountered somebody who says they're not attracted to black men, and then they encounter someone who also in the same breath says hateful things about black men, they assume that you're attracted to black men, but you just hate them for other reasons, and therefore you can't stand black men, so then your attraction isn't able to be accessible. And for me, it's like there is no attraction to be accessible to. Like, that's just not there. But it's not absent because I hate black men. Like, it has nothing to do with if I like black men or don't like black men. That has to do with just how I grew up and what area I grew up in. And maybe you could say in some distant way it could have to do with it in the sense of like maybe my mother, like I said, she kind of saw black men as violent and things of that nature. Probably because of like what I said with my whole situation with my father, and so she kept me away from certain people, basically. So I didn't grow up around black men. Like, that would be a nightmare for her if I was around black men when I was a kid. She's always found black men very scary. So, I mean, like, how can you develop an attraction towards somebody who, isn't really in your presence, isn't in your life? You're never around such people. So you can't really develop an attraction towards the people that you hardly ever see. And, society doesn't condition us to be attracted to black men. They really don't. Because it's kind of like assume black people are attracted to each other. But in the general media, they kind of push like white people, white men, white women, you know? And so this is another part of it. But to me, it's like, now, how do you really expect minorities to really prefer themselves when the people that we are always pushed, that's always pushed on us, aren't our own race anyway? And most of the time when we go outside, we see mostly non-black people. Yet somehow we're supposed to still have a preference for ourselves. It's just weird to me. But I was also thinking, like, I compare kind of, I guess you could say, compare my whole situation and my whole, upbringing and everything to a lot of other people who were, I guess, conditioned to prefer black men and may have had a bad relationship or so. And to me, it's like, I wonder, like, personally, I'm like, am I a little soft on black men, kind of? Because I mean, like, I like if I were like of that mindset, I mean, like I would really, really despise them, really honestly, because I mean, like everything that I've gone through. But it's just like I don't know. It would make no sense to me to judge someone for being a black man any more than I would want to be judged for being a black woman. You know, I mean, I understand that being a black person, I can't really judge people for their race and gender because I know how I'm judged every day for my race and gender. You know, so that's why I guess for me, I don't like to assert anything just by looking at someone's um, racial, like their appearance, on how their race is and their gender is and things of that nature. With that in mind, I mean, like, some people will always talk about with black men, like, how being, for example, like divested and black men's issues. I am not the type that really has an issue with like black men's issues, really. My problem is usually I don't see the issue the same way a lot of other people see it because I'm a conservative, you know. And sometimes people will talk about, for example, like different problems with black men. And I'll always be like, well, those issues, I don't even acknowledge them. I think, well, they should have probably turned out the way they did, you know. It depends on the issue, you know. But, like, for example, like, when people talk about, like, race soldiers, oh, there's a comment, sorry. Travels of a Black Rose. I think a lot of black women are clapping back at the disrespect black men have against black women. It's all a mess, really. Yeah, I understand that. But honestly, for me, I guess it's different for me, I think, because a lot of the time with black men, it's like, I don't really need to clap back because they're kind of like clapping back, usually, from my point of view, generally. Because, like, you know, if you don't expect anything from someone, then it really doesn't, it makes their expectations lower. For me, I never expect anything from a black man. Like, I don't. And that kind of goes into the whole thing of being groomed not to look to them as like basically my opposite sex, which I was never raised to see them as my opposite sex. I wasn't. Um, so then for me, it's like I don't really hear what they have to say, really. You know what I mean? And it is kind of liberating because generally for me, I never really care about anyone of the opposite sex. It seems like generally, it's I have a weird situation kind of with different races, basically. But I mean, I don't know. I just wasn't groomed a lot of like I wasn't groomed the way a lot of other people were groomed when it comes to black men. So then I don't like seek like I don't look to black men to like, for example, some people complain about black men not being protectors or providers or not giving respect or things of that nature. And I just don't really look to black men for that. Generally, for me, with my experience with black men, it's always been like they seem to generally treat me actually well, honestly. Like they would try to treat with some kind of way of, in a good way, but like in a way where they want something in return, basically. And this is why I would always want them to treat me like crap. Because it would be like, I don't feel like even you dealing with this phase and you're treating me this way until you understand that I do not like you and please leave me alone. And when I say I do not like you, I mean like, not like I hate you, like I don't like you, like you get what I'm saying. Anyway, so that generally is why for me, I never really mind mistreatment, really, honestly, because to me it's like, I mean, unless we're talking like if it's in the job or something like that. But if you just don't like me or you're being like upset or something, I'm happy with that, honestly, because I'd rather have that than be harassed. Because harassment sucks. I mean, like, people who are just bitter are better than people who are trying to harass you sexually because, that can turn into something really, really bad. So to me, I like to squash it and make them feel any other way besides that. Like that's just me. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's why for me I don't have too much anger because I never expected much out of black men. I guess as some people, they expect a lot. And going back to that, I mean, like some people have like relationships, with black men and things of that nature, and it doesn't work out. So they kind of like expected those black men to be their white knight and things of that nature. They really saw a lot in them, that they could, you know, be the man of their dreams and things of that nature. They had faith in black men, and I guess when that dissipates and, you know, they actually feel like those people have completely failed them, you know, it turns their whole view upside down, I guess. But for me, it's kind of like I never really expected much. And that's in part, I think, has to do with how I was groomed. Because, like I said, the way I was groomed was, like I said, that black men were scary, black men were violent, black men were criminals, And that's not just specific to the crime and murder of my father, but it's more so like my mother would always say that with that story, but she would say that they're just really criminal minded individuals and just to stay away from them in total. For me, I always was of the mindset like I'm not going to judge anyone for that, but I'm still not going to see them obviously ideally because that was never painted as the certain view I was supposed to have of black men because, like, nobody painted that view. Like, it was either negative, like, from my mother, or, like, from, like, socially and things of that nature. It was just like they don't really exist. So, I don't know. Oh, there's another comment. Yeah, I just wish black men would prefer black women who want them instead of trying to chase after me. I'm mixed, and it just seems like self hate to me, which is perturbing. Yeah, honestly, that is a major thing for me. I never understood why black men. What I don't understand is why black men get so angry and upset when they're not preferred by one person. When there's tons of people who prefer you. So please, why are you concerned that just one person doesn't like you? You know what I mean? Like that, to me, it's always odd. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, can you get over the fact that one person is not interested in you and just focus on the billions of people who do find you attractive? And yeah, to me, like one other thing, like with being, I'm I don't consider myself mixed race. Honestly, I consider myself black. But my father is a mix of Creole, Cajun, which is white, Dominican, and Blackfoot Native American, and some other stuff. So I am mixed race, I guess, because I'm 50% black genetically. So I mean, like, black American men kind of treat me like I'm different sometimes. They do, and um, like I generally don't appreciate that, but I don't really. To me, the way I see it is just like, well, if you acknowledge that we're different, then I don't understand why you're concerned or upset that maybe you aren't preferred, you know? And that's the thing with being mixed, which sucks, honestly, because they kind of like act like you're different, but at the same time, you're not. Like, they see you like you're black, but you're mixed at the same time. At least in my experience. Just sucky. Like, I see like people who are of other races, like if someone's white or Hispanic and they don't prefer black men, no one really cares. Black men may want them all day, doesn't really matter, you know. But when you're mixed with black, when you're identifiably black, it's more problematic because they kind of like act like you're black, but you're mixed and they know you're different and they go after you because they know you're different, but at the same time, it's like this idea that you have to kind of indulge in their or entertain their whole idea of trying to run from themselves, which is just like really annoying to me. I don't know. I don't appreciate that. But there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. Um, it's just like to me, I think the whole hating black men kind of goes hand in hand with the idea that you know you kind of like hate or don't like black people or something of that nature. You don't like blackness, you know, and it's like that goes hand in hand to people. I'm saying this in perspective of other people, not me. Um, of no attraction to black men. And to me, it's just like, I don't understand why, just because I'm not attracted to black men, why it all of a sudden means that you hate yourself as a black person and hate black race, and then want to basically uplift white people. Like, it never made any sense to me. Like, that someone, just because someone doesn't have a sexual attraction to something, that now they have to hate themselves and black men, black people, you know, and like prefer another type of people. And it's like, one also that I don't understand is people always focus on white people when we talk about the attraction of black men. And it's so weird to me because it's like, oh, there are other races out there. Yet we can only talk about black versus white, which to me means maybe you are just talking about your insecurity about being black, and obviously your insecurity about being black goes straight back to that sounds creepy to me. Um, yeah, but you know, it goes back to your insecurity about being black and things of that nature. But it's like, I don't think that's really tied into anything about me. That's more so a personal issue for you, you know. And to me, another thing I don't get is this. I was watching one video on this lady, And she was acting like, you know, she was a mixed race lady, and she was acting like if you preferred black men or black people, that it was basically not self-hate. But if you preferred white men, then and more than like any other race, then it was basically self-hate. And from my point of view, I never understood this. I mean, she's mixed race, and she was mixed race, but not mixed race in my mind. I mean, like she's 50% black, which to me, 50% black is not really mixed. Honestly, I mean it is, but I mean biracials in America are usually like 30 to 40% black. But anyway, to me, I just thought like considering she was evenly black and white, it was odd to me because it was like, how come you think that it's self hate to prefer white men, but it's not self hate to prefer black men? Like, I don't understand that really. To me, I mean, like for me, I've never thought that if you're evenly both races, that it's really self hate to prefer either, really. And I mean, I don't even understand why she would think that, you know? I just thought that was odd in that video. Anyway, I also noticed with black people in general, it seems like I think on black issues with black men, the reason I'm not really pro black men or pro black women, I mean, like, the reason I'm more pro black women is because, like, to me, I have more familiarity with black women. Honestly, I mean, I was raised by a black woman. I am a black woman. I identify as black. Um, and to me, I just think like that. I often find that like generally with black men, it's like they always have issues. It seems like associated with many stereotypes that I don't really appreciate. So, for example, like if people say you're not pro black men, it's usually associated with like misbehavior, basically. And what I hate about that is, you know, I don't like the image of black men actually being bad, honestly. I don't. Because, I mean, like, they're still part of the black race. When they look bad, I look bad. Because I'm black too. So, I mean, like, it doesn't help anything for them to have a bad image. But, like, like, for example, like, when people would talk about, like, police brutality or, like, crime or things of that nature, or absent fathers or things of that nature, to me, it would always be like, I felt like the people who were, um, sorry about that. I thought I had a knock at the door. Anyway, I feel like the people who are, with associated more with those type of issues, it's like they have different priorities that I don't have, basically. And it's just like a whole different mindset, basically, you know. But it doesn't mean that I hate black men, you know. I just think that the image needs to be better, you know. And often I find, like, with manosphere and things of that nature, it's like so many times people always try and act like, you know, black men have this terrible image of themselves, you know, and everybody basically upholds it. So it almost seems like, you know, the black men see themselves poorly, the black women see themselves poorly, and yeah, it's like nobody actually thinks of black men in a good view of them. And that's not healthy for us as a black race to me, because it's like if they aren't seen in a good way and they're not seen positively, then as a race we seem dysfunctional, which we already do seem dysfunctional, but we can always redeem ourselves, you know. And that's just mainly my concern and issue. It's just like the state of how people seem to associate black men in a very negative light, and how, like, even for those who, you know, don't hate black men, they still basically seem to parrot the same views as those who hate black men. They just tend to have more excuses for them. And I don't appreciate the excuses, because the excuses are just ways to debilitate black men. And I don't really appreciate debilitating black men, because I mean, like, they'll never get better that way. So that's basically all I had to say on this video. Oh, it's pretty long, 42 minutes. I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. But yeah, I just think that often people seem to, you know, have a lot of different negative views and things of that nature. And I kind of just stand at a place where I don't, like, make excuses for black men, but I don't hate them either. And I don't associate everything negative with them either. It's just kind of like, you know, they need to have good constructive criticism sometimes. So then the image of black men can be better. I think the image of black men needs to just be better. And, you know, many black men need to, you know, basically level up and just do better for themselves in their lives. And that's not to say for black women, in my opinion. It's not like they have to be with black women to do this. I don't really care if they're with 72-year-old man, for all I care. I don't really care. I'm just saying in their lives, I would prefer them to be more successful and do better in their lives. So then, you know, the image of black people is not in the dirt, you know. And that's the thing, you know, with the black community, is often people love to bring the low class side of black American people, you know. And it makes sense, you know, other races doing that. I mean, like, what do they have to lose to make us look like, you know, the lowest of the low? It doesn't really hurt them to do that. It actually benefits them. Um, but to me, the problem is why do we do it? You know, why do black people in general try to associate, like, the black hood mentality, basically, and the people from those pretty base communities to be kind of like the face of like black culture? Like, I never understood that. for me, I guess that's mainly my problem. It's just like the way people present black men and how black men, the black male identity is. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I'll finish. I'm done. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.